Okay, we are live. I am the only person in here, so I think I'm just talking to myself for later. And oh, dude, Wavy is on it. Hey, Wavy. I thought it was going to take people a long time to trickle in. I was going to like talk to myself, but you guys are making me feel like a liar. While everybody kind of like pops in, I'm gonna start rearranging things because I like literally just got back from the grocery store and kind of unpacked stuff, but I mostly just tossed the stuff that I was gonna need out on the counter. And so it needs a little bit more organization. So I promise I'm not gonna start like doing too many things, but I'm just gonna do busy work for the next little bit while you three talk to each other. And me probably, I'll check the chat. And then we can get started. Because I've got like 8 things to plug in. So today we're making chicken curry, which means that I'm making rice, which I am doing in a rice maker. So I've already got like that set up. I'm just gonna like literally plug it in and we'll call it a day. So that's one machine. The other machine, like on the other side of the counter, the other machine is going to be a food processor so that I can do the onion really fast because I don't really feel like spending a ton of time dicing onion. At least not today. I usually don't, and it's a finer onion chopper than I am physically capable of accomplishing. So has sharp spinny blades. And then you just toss the onion in and it explodes. So those can go there. What are you guys playing? I guess either you or Wavy can chime in on that one. Oh, nice. Okay, well, every time you die, pop back in, see how it's going. But I can't hold that against you because I have definitely been playing my, like, on Sammy's PS4 streams because I'm on Xbox. I've hopped on to play on my Xbox, so not in a squad with anybody while watching the, like, Sammy stream on PS4. So no judgment. Hope you guys enjoy. And it's probably going to be a pretty quiet stream anyway because I don't think anybody in Australia is awake at this time of the day, especially not after the time change. Which kind of messes me up a whole bunch, actually. So fun tip from your Aunt F, when I am cooking something that involves like a lot of additions to the recipe, you know, where you've got like something going in the pot and then a few minutes later, another few somethings and then another few somethings. I always just combine the ingredients into a bowl ahead of time. And then all I have to do is dump a bowl, a single bowl at every step of the process. And this one, so I've never made this recipe before. I have no idea what's going to happen. But this kind of has a lot of like little mini steps like that. So I figured I'm just going to be dumping a lot of stuff into a single bowl and going from there. Who have I missed? Oh, hey, PTE. And like I said, I've never made this before, so I'm definitely going to be spending a lot of time. I have a Post-it note with the recipe up there, so if you see me staring at stuff up there, that is what I'm staring at. I'm leaving knives everywhere. Yeah, it kind of saves on the cleanup too. Like if I was going to put all of every ingredient like together, like in a bowl and do, you know, like let's say do all the garlic together and then all of whatever after that. And then you've just used like 2 bowls when it's all going to get combined eventually anyway. And then it's a lot less hard to forget ingredients. They're all already together. It's kind of like, okay, you just dump this bowl and it has everything in it. If you had time before everything's on fire to double check and make sure that you've got the right stuff all together. And like I think I've said before, I don't like doing the dishes. So if I can manage to not do dishes or do fewer dishes, then that is what I'm all about. I love the taste of ginger, but I hate cooking with it. But there is ginger in this recipe, which is why that's relevant. Because you always have to like peel it and then you grate it, and it's not like grating a potato where it's all like a nice even shape. Kind of a pain in the butt. So and you would think that grating it would be pretty easy, but it's not. That's almost worse, actually. Because it's got like it's a little stringy on the inside, and so it doesn't really like to grate. You kind of end up just like turning it into a pulp. So instead, I am just slicing it really thin, and then I'm just going to kind of like dice it up and call it a day. if I can. So who has managed to get the Luke skin yet and play a bunch of Ewok Hunt? I think that's the only exciting thing going on right now. And let me tell you, I am not enjoying all of this Ewok Hunt. It makes me paranoid. I die a lot. Or I just stand there waiting to die a lot. I mean, it's kind of fun, and it's actually nice that the games kind of don't take a ton of time. So actually, I'd kind of forgotten that you can do that. Like, you've only got, 10 minutes or whatever to play. It's not a bad option. But I played last night before bed, and all the lights in my apartment were out, and I was playing, and I was sitting there, and it's dark in the game, and all I have is a flashlight, and eventually I just turned the lights on and was like, you know what, maybe this is not the way to go, but I did finally manage to get it, so now I don't have to play until they do something else, because I will freely admit it, I can't handle it. And then I think of all the people who, like, I have a friend who was like, oh, you should totally play this game. It's a thriller. You're on like a ghost ship and it's haunted and there's some monster or something. And he was like, you should totally play it. And I just looked at him and was like, you've got to be kidding me, because there's no way I would survive that. And I don't know why he thinks that I would survive that. Like, there's just no way. I think he just wanted to be able to laugh at me while I was screaming like a little girl. But I mean, I'm allowed to scream like a little girl because I am a girl. So I don't know. I guess it's worse for you guys who have to pretend like you're not little girls. But I mean, scream if you gotta scream. He's actually the youngest, and all of his siblings are girls. And so I think he looks at me as a little sister that he can torment, because he was never quite able to torment his older siblings, which is nice of him, I guess. It's a boy thing, I think. I don't know. Okay, so here's what I have done so far with my prep. So I'm supposed to take garlic and ginger and basically split it in half and use half of it as like a marinade for the chicken that's going to go in at the end, and the other half to kind of like cook the sauce before the chicken goes in. So this bowl right here is the bowl that's going to get added to the pot, and then in the yellow bowl over there, I'm going to be adding chicken and yogurt. to that and letting it sit. So I think the only thing that I really have left to like really prep before I can turn the heat on is the onion and the chicken, but the chicken is just pulling it out of the package and like slicing it up. So that should be pretty quick. So big knife. And I always cut the ends off my onion so that if you have to cut after that, you have like a nice flat base and you're not chasing your onion around everywhere. Because that's a good way to probably end up cutting yourself is if you're trying to chase after an onion. And since my food processor is a little bit on the small side, from there I cut it into sixths, and I'm going to take the outside off because I don't need that, and then kind of split it up before I toss it in here so that when it starts spinning around, it's not hitting like these huge chunks of onion and struggling. So hopefully it will go a little bit faster. Where's the lid to this? This could be really fun and exciting because I totally put the lid down somewhere, which is proof that I'm the most organized human being in the world, and it doesn't work without the lid. Cover your ears. Sorry, guys. So the only other stream that I've used the food processor for the onion, I did all of the prep beforehand, like off stream, so I saved you guys from a lot of the noise. I do only want to cause pain. Definitely pain. What brand of cutlery do I use? If you mean like forks and knives kind of cutlery as opposed to cooking implements, I use the kind that I rescued from my friend's garage when she and her, well, now they're married, but so she moved out and her, at the time, fiance were living separately in two separate apartments. So they had two sets of everything, two sets of dishes, two sets of forks and knives, two sets of cooking equipment. So they were just giving like a ton of stuff away. So I hijacked those. Cooking equipment, cutting knives. So I use a combination. This is actually from Target. It's called Victorinox, and they're actually like really sharp, pretty gnarly. And then I also have some of these guys, but that's just because that's what my mom had a few spare knives when I moved out, so I stole hers. But that's what they use. So it's a combination of knives. I'm actually not very I have to get the best kind of this or the best kind of that when it comes to knives. I think if I was going to pick like something to be really, really careful about what brand I was using, I would care more about my pots and pans than I would about knives and such. And I tend to make everything in my Dutch oven, which you guys all know. Without Vic here to kind of like make fun of me, it's not quite as much fun to be saying Dutch oven. And that's actually a really expensive Dutch oven. It's like the best you can probably get. So definitely did not skimp there. But on the other side of the fence, my like non-stick skillet is like $10. So, I mean, it's a really good quality. It just so happens that it's only like $10. Okay, I'm gonna mute myself and do the rest of these onions really fast because that was way louder than I was thinking it was gonna be, and I don't want to have to pay for Wavy's hearing aids. But feel free to keep asking questions, and I will answer them when I'm off mute. Okay, I am back. I am done using this little monster, at least until tomorrow's stream, which I think I am actually going to do 2 this weekend. I guess I have to make up for missing a week while I was on vacation. I know Wavy spent a lot of that time crying, and thank you for the compliment about my sunglasses. Onions make me cry, but I feel like I do a little bit better if I'm wearing like large glasses. So I pop the sunglasses on. I don't know if it actually does anything, but I wear them. And now it's kind of a little bit more fun. So chicken and yogurt. So all of that is going in. So I have a lot of chicken. See ya, Alvin. So I have a lot of chicken. I'm going to be tossing that into a bowl after I cut it up into strips with some yogurt, which is it's 5% because that was as close to full fat as I could find that didn't have a flavor. But I could have used even down to like 2% Greek yogurt. But I'm trying to follow the recipe as much as possible since I've never made it before. But of course I say that and I'm, as you'll see later, not following it especially closely. Oh well. So the yogurt, here you can kind of see my apartment. Actually, I need to do this too, because the bowl is over there. So it probably makes the most sense to just move everything closer to the bowl. So these are just like regular chicken breasts. There's not anything fancy about them. And because we will be, what we're looking for is like little chunks like you would find in a curry. I'm just slicing them up. Recipes almost always tell you like how big of a chunk to make it, as long as you're cooking the sauce like beforehand. So in this case, most of the sauce is actually cooked all the way beforehand, and then the rest of it is kind of just like thickening time, or like marinating for the chicken. I don't really care if they're a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. The goal is just to make them a consistent size, whatever size you end up picking. Because if they're not consistent, then you'll end up with some that are cooked and some that are not. And then if you cook all of them, you'll end up with some that are overcooked, which I guess is better than having some that are way undercooked. But either way, it's still not the best. So the goal is just to try and make it all as even as possible. Even though, of course, chicken breasts are kind of a weird size. They're not very consistent, so it's hard to kind of split it up super evenly. And of course, chicken is kind of gross to handle, so maybe not for everyone. You could absolutely like substitute tofu into this recipe if you wanted to. If you have an issue with dairy, there's alternatives instead of the yogurt that you could use if you wanted. So I mean, there's options. You just gotta know to go looking for them. I actually don't think I'm going to use all of this chicken. It seems like a lot of chicken. I could be wrong. Maybe it's not a lot of chicken. But it's like 2.5 pounds, and it's really just going to be me. So eating it. Indy might. I can't decide if Indy's going to end up being brave on this one or not. I guess I'll have to taste it and see if I like it, because if I don't like it, then she's not going to like it. And I don't mind my curry being a little bit more saucy than chickeny, if that makes any sense at all. Anytime you handle raw chicken, for sure, at least rinse your hands, because chicken's gross. Don't forget to take the thing that soaks up like the liquid out of your yogurt. So that was garlic, the garlic, the ginger. So like there's a ginger piece right there. The chicken and the yogurt. So I'm just gonna stir it around so that it gets a little bit of a marinade feel to it. And then at the end of the rest of the steps that I haven't done yet, this is all getting dumped in to this pot right here. So I'm actually just going to leave that in there and put it over here to hang out. Non-flavored yogurt is really disgusting. No, I don't think raw chicken juice is a good moisturizer. Well, actually, it probably is an excellent moisturizer. I just don't recommend it on a hygiene level, but it probably works just fine. And I think I covered your marinade question, so let me know. I can tell you what it is again. So I just turned the stove on. Let's see. So I'm going to take this onion because that's the next step, and cumin. So this recipe calls for cumin seeds. I don't have those, and I don't really feel like using them either. So I just decided not to. Instead, I'm just going to use ground cumin, and because it's probably going to end up with more cumin, I'm using slightly less than the 1 teaspoon that I am supposed to be using. So, like I said, not following the recipe super closely, just kind of ending, trying to steer in the direction that is going to get me mostly sticking to it, but mostly not sticking to it. Ooh, your game crashed. That's no fun. So my marinade is yogurt, ginger, and garlic. So I took a 2-inch piece of garlic, split it in half. Half of it went in this bowl. The other half of it went in the yellow bowl over there, which has the chicken and the yogurt. And then it's 2 cloves of garlic. The other 2 cloves are in here. So this little bowl right here, the little glass one, is going to get added into this pot first. As like the second step after this oil is hot. And then the rest of it's going to get added in with the chicken and the marinade. And then in another glass bowl. So I have like a ton of these little guys. And I pretty much only use them for this exact purpose, which is to measure out ingredients ahead of time. 1.5 teaspoons. And I'm being only kind of precise. So like that was supposed to be 1.5 teaspoons, and I just kind of like eyeballed 1/2 teaspoon. I don't have kosher salt, so I'm going to use sea salt. But it's coarse sea salt, so that makes me feel a little bit more like I'm following the instructions, but I'm mostly not following the instructions, like, at all. So, cooking is not an exact science. So if you ever notice that not quite set up for all the ingredients. There's a lot of substitutions you can make. There's a lot of like eyeball it if you can. It's mostly not going to ruin whatever you're trying to accomplish. So I wouldn't sweat it too much. So I just tossed that in there. It's probably a little bit early. The oil isn't quite hot, but all that was the onions and the cumin. I use powder. I'm supposed to be using seeds, but oh well. So I have never made this recipe, but I've also never made curry at home before. So this is kind of a little exciting. Ooh, this smells great. This is, I'm probably going to butcher that, but it smells really good. So hopefully it tastes really good. I mean, I'm sure I've had it in recipes before, so I'm not actually worried about it tasting good. And 1 tablespoon. And basically what I think I'm building right now in this little guy is just a ton of spices. And so far it is the masala spice, the turmeric, some salt, and this is coriander. And all I'm missing is a little bit of cayenne or like mild chili powders. So I'm gonna try this one. And see what happens. So there's like so many different spices in this, but the general like concept, right, is pretty simple. You kind of make the sauce, add the chicken, and then it's just going to hang out for a little bit. And for the most part, it's just spices and more spices that are being added. So new tomato product to the stream. This time I'm using tomato paste. So we've done diced tomatoes, we've done crushed tomatoes. I think we've done tomato sauce. This is tomato paste. So I think we are actually pretty much through every single tomato canned option. I was reading an interesting thing the other day about canned diced tomatoes, which is that the chemical that they're treated with doesn't really let them like break down when you cook them. So that's why even though they're really, really cooked, they're still kind of like really solid. So I actually think in the future that I'm going to be using crushed tomatoes instead because they aren't treated with the same chemical. And even though they're broken down a little bit more to start with, I don't think it's the end of the world. So there we go. There is pretty much my new opinion about canned tomatoes. I didn't know I had an opinion about canned tomatoes, but here we are. So the onions are cooking with the cumin. With the cumin. So I'm just trying to get those cooked until they're, actually a little bit translucent. They don't have to be super, super brown, but I definitely want them like good and cooked. And then I think I'm actually done with the ingredients, except for I need a half cup of water. Which is like something like that. That's 3/4. I don't know if you guys do this, but I spend a lot of time measuring liquids, dumping stuff out. Luckily, it's only water, so if I overdump, I can always add more. It's not the end of the world. If I was working with something where I had a limited resource, like I usually have a ton of chicken broth or chicken stock in my pantry, so that probably doesn't even count as a limited resource. But for some people, it might be right. You've only got like one carton and you can't really afford to be dumping it out. Which is why water is the best for that kind of stuff. Cool. So, how's the rice doing? So the rice is behind my laptop right now, so you guys can't see it. It's just doing its own little thing. I am using basmati rice, I think. Yes. There's like 4 different rice types in my pantry, so I couldn't remember which one I'd actually used just now. And as the onions cook, they give off more onion. So my eyes are always super happy. This is about the point, if you were here last stream, when I chased my girlfriend out of the room because all the fumes just kind of go everywhere. And you can't really trust my front door to not let bugs in if you crack it. So I'm just going to try and tough it out. Maybe. We'll see. So I got new sunglasses a few days ago, and I'm used to having like a black lens or like, more of a like blue purple look. And these are obviously a brown lens. So that's always really fun to adjust to. But I actually am having a hard time telling what the onions are doing because all the colors are blending together with the brown tint to them. So that's adding an extra degree of difficulty, but it wouldn't be fun if I was making it easy on myself. So new recipe that I've never made before, and I'm doing it in front of people and trying to pretend like I know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. So there we go. But I think it all works out because you guys are all playing Battlefront 2. So you're not paying very much attention to me anyway, which is probably for the best. Tomorrow, if I end up doing another stream, it'll probably be another recipe, something like this, where I have never made it before. But I've made something similar to it before, so it shouldn't be awful. And at some point, soup is soup. That is like one giant tomato slice that I did not cut up very well. Oh my God. Okay. I have no idea if those are done yet. I would usually cook them for a little bit longer just because I'm lame. But I'm pretty ready for the next step, so I'm just gonna do it and we'll see what happens. So next step is to add the ginger and the garlic to the mixture. And cook it for like another 2 minutes. So this is not a very exciting looking pot right now, but there it is. It's pretty white and beige and yellow. So it should be getting more exciting when I add the next set of ingredients, which are these guys. There's obviously a decent amount of color in there. And then after that, I'm adding tomato paste, so a little bit more color. And then it'll end up looking more like a curry and less like random onion chunks, which would be a good name for a band, actually. Random Onion Chunks. If anyone is musically inclined, I am definitely not, but there you go. There's your band name. You're welcome. That noise was the rice cooker saying that it's done. So I'm going to unplug it. It has a setting that like keeps stuff warm. But if you leave it on for too long, the bottom kind of ends up burning just because there is a heat element to it, obviously. When I'm adding spices to anything or any kind of dry ingredient, I try and spread it out as much as I can so that there's slightly less stirring to do. It kind of gets it a more even coat and I don't have to worry about making sure that it mixes really well. Kind of does some of the work for me. Okay, this smells really good. If it tastes as good as it smells right now, then we're golden. Speaking of which, because I added turmeric, it's now pretty yellow. I was thinking maybe with the chili powder it would end up a little bit more red, but it's definitely going to be yellow because the turmeric makes everything turn yellow. And at this point, the whole goal here is to not let anything burn. So I'm just gonna kind of stir periodically, make sure that I don't end up with any crispy bits on the bottom of the pot. Oh, you guys were in a scumbag lobby? Tomato paste is very pasty, guys, so it does not want to come off of your measuring spoons. So fair warning to you guys on that. The only sad thing about using tomato paste is that it comes in, your only option is a can this size, and I've like barely used any of it. So it's kind of a bit of a waste almost, but I guess if I cooked more often, I'd be able to just like use it in a ton of stuff. Like if I was making something else tomato-y tomorrow, I could just save it, but instead it's pretty much toast, so that's a bummer. So it is definitely redder now that I have added the tomato paste. So looks like that right now. And that is all of pretty much all of the ingredients actually for the spice mix. So everything else is just going to be what's already in with the chicken and the little bit of water that I measured out earlier. So this goes for maybe another minute. And then after that, it's actually going to go for quite a bit of time. I wish I had a way to like pause the stream because I'm sure since it's like 20 minutes that you guys aren't going to want to like hang out for quite that long. I totally almost just dropped that. I have no idea if any of you were watching. But you know, rewind, enjoy. So I'm just trying to make sure with this spatula that I get all of the yogurt out of here, or a good portion of the yogurt. It's going to be impossible to get all of it, but the yogurt is kind of the thing that's going to keep the chicken nice and tender. So it's definitely something that I want to keep in the sauce as much as I can. And I'm just mixing it around to make sure that everything kind of gets like good and coated. And then I'm going to check the recipe because I'm a recipe checker. Low heat, stirring once or twice. Cool. So I'm gonna turn the heat down. So this is what it looks like now. Definitely looks more like a curry now that there's chicken in there. I'm kind of glad that I did not add all the chicken because it does, for my preferences anyway, seem a little bit chicken heavy. So I'm going to, I think, mute you guys and leave the stream going for a little bit and come back. And by come back, I mean I'm just going to go do some dishes and whatever. So if you see me wandering around, all good, because this has probably 20 minutes. So the recipe that I'm using for this is from a blogger called Smitten Kitchen. Here, let me put a link to it in the chat because I actually have it open right now on my browser. So the recipe that she has put together for this is slightly different from what I actually ended up doing. Obviously, if you read down that recipe and get like all the way to the end, she's pretty pretty open to substitution ideas. Just kind of got a few notes, like here's how you would maybe make it like gluten-free, or here's how you'd make it vegan, vegetarian. So she's definitely open to that. The recipe, so the first thing that I changed about this recipe is it calls for chicken thighs, and I'm using chicken breasts. The only difference on that is that chicken breasts tend to get drier um, when they're cooked than chicken thighs will. So chicken thighs actually are kind of more of a like hearty option if you were going to be like roasting them in the oven. Chicken thighs are probably better. But I'm a little bit picky about my chicken. I don't like it super fatty. So I usually go with chicken breasts because I just prefer them. So the impact that that's going to have to the recipe is that I'm going to want to check these way more carefully and make sure that they're not getting overcooked. And they might actually be cooked in less time than chicken thighs would. So that was substitution kind of number one. Then as I go down the ingredients list, like I said, I used 5% Greek yogurt. I could have gone down to 2%, but that worked out just fine. I minced the ginger. I did not mince it like super, super fine because I was too lazy, and I didn't grate it either because I think you end up with kind of like, I mean, it's basically like liquid with some pulp when you grate it, so I didn't do that. But this works out just fine. I used, so it calls for two yellow onions. I only used one because I was using really big onions, and I don't think I needed two of them. The oil that I used is just canola oil. I totally forgot an ingredient. 1 15-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. I can probably just add that right now. So, like I said, I'm not paying very much attention. My note-taking skills are obviously suspicious. It's funny because I actually said something about crushed tomatoes, but didn't remember that I had bought them for this recipe instead of yesterday's recipe. So I guess it's a good thing that I'm going over the recipe right now. And this calls for a 15-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, which doesn't exist in nature. It's like not a thing that you can buy. So instead, I got this 28-ounce can, and I'm just going to use about half of it, like a really precise professional. When I say that cooking is not an exact science, I am obviously really not kidding, because I just added an ingredient super late. Well, not super late. So this was supposed to be added with the tomato paste, which was like the last thing that I did before adding the chicken. So it's not that late. This makes it saucier for sure, which I think it was like just about right before on the chicken to sauce ratio, but extra sauce has never hurt anybody. So now I'm really excited. I stand by my decisions to use less chicken. And so there we go. Tomato paste, turmeric, the masala, the coriander, chili powder, and water. That's all the ingredients, and it's pretty good. So the recipe calls for 25 to 30 minutes. I don't think it's going to take that long, honestly, because of the chicken breast. So I am going to check on, cover it, leave it on like a low heat, and I'm going to come back and check on it in another 10 minutes and kind of see where it's at, which should help me figure out if I need another 10 or not. And in the meantime, I'm just going to be wandering around, probably doing dishes. So feel free to ping me in the chat. I'll be paying attention. And you guys can just enjoy this lovely view of a covered pot while I am trying to cook it. So there you go. Be right back. I suppose if I'm going to talk to the camera, I should unmute. So thank you, Wavy, for your compliment on my pot. It was a Christmas present from my mom. She has one that's yellow. Yep, that's about all I got. Okay, back on mute. All right, guys, so it has been about 10 minutes. So I'm just going to check on this. And really what I want to do is I want to take a tiny knife and a piece of chicken and take a look and see if it's cooked through. And it is still, let's see if I can manage to do this without making a mess. So it is still a little bit pink in the middle. So I'm just going to release it. That was a bigger chunk. I know I was preaching on equality of size and shape earlier. I'm really bad at it, so I just go with a few tough, tiny pieces, I guess. But I don't think that has another 10 minutes in it. So I am going to set a timer for another 5 and then check again. It looks like that at the moment. And be back in 5. Okay, and it's been about another 5 minutes, so checking on this again. And I'm stirring it around first, and then I'm going to search for one of the bigger pieces of chicken if I can find one to cut in half. And I think that still needs a little bit more time, but like only barely. So we'll do another few and check back in on it. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this too. Let's see if I can manage to free the rice from my laptop cord. There we go. So the rice, if I know my rice maker at all, is still warm. And I actually, so it's about like 2 o'clock right now. But I do have dinner plans shortly. So I usually would eat this, but I'm just kind of going to make myself a snack in one of these little bowls. So might as well start with the rice. And if you guys don't know this already, rice is excellent because you can freeze it. So you can make a bunch of rice if like you tend to do a lot of rice heavy meals. You can make rice, freeze, and then it's really easy to get back to it later. So this looks like cooked rice, which is excellent because I barely touched it. So that's actually a little bit dry. I usually like my rice a little bit wetter. So I probably would leave it off of warm for a little bit longer than I did. But I mean, rice is rice. So that's just a preference thing. I usually do 1 part rice to 2 parts water. Sometimes for flavor, I add a little bit of like chicken stock instead of water. I do, like if I'm making a cup of rice, I do like 1 cup chicken stock, 1 cup water, and that gives it a little bit more flavor. If you have a rice cooker, you can add all kinds of stuff in there and it just cooks right in there as well. So sometimes what I'll do is saute a whole bunch of onions and then kind of take a teaspoon or so and freeze them like bit by bit, and then you can just toss them in and they thaw out while the rice is cooking. And I think that this is probably done. So let's see. Let's use one of these guys. One more. I'm looking for all of the tiny pieces of chicken so that I don't have to like use a knife for a bowl like this size. So, finished product looks like that, which to me looks exactly like it is supposed to. So that's encouraging. Since this is done, I'm going to go ahead and move it to a different burner so that I'm not cooking it accidentally. I'm going to move this knife because it's danger zone, and this, it's gotten my kitchen dirty enough. So in the time that this cooked, other than cleaning, like right here where I've obviously got some splatters, I managed to clean the entire rest of the kitchen and all of the dishes. So this has actually been perfect, start to finish. Let's see, the stream started at an hour and 24 minutes ago. So since I did pretty much all of the preparation work on this one on the stream, it's going to take you probably about an hour and a half from start to finish. I don't know what the recipe says that it is supposed to take. It says it's going to take 60 minutes, but they usually don't include prep work in how long it's going to take, like how long it would take you to chop all the onions, for example. And obviously I was talking to you guys and taking a bit of time. So not working super, super speedy, but as recipes go, this is pretty simple. It's got a lot of ingredients, but they're all spices. So if you have all the spices, it's pretty easy to just kind of like toss it together. You could use tofu. Actually, tofu would probably be really good in this if you're a tofu person. So seems like this is a pretty versatile recipe, assuming that it doesn't taste awful, which I don't think that it does. Oh, because I was talking about them earlier, these are the forks that I stole from my friend's garage. There you go. They were totally worth the effort. I think it's because she did not think that her husband was going to want to use those for the rest of their married life. They're a little on the girly side. But as somebody who lives by herself or with Indy, I mean, Indy's not always here, but it's pretty much like all girls all the time. So that's really good. Yeah, I would totally make this again. It's still a little bit hot though, so I don't recommend eating it, immediately after you pull it out of the pot. But I wanted to prove to you guys that I didn't poison myself. So there we go. That is the end of the stream, probably, since it's been a pretty light stream in terms of participation, which no big deal. I just figure if I was going to be making something, I might as well stream it because I know Wavy was really sad while I was on vacation. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Good luck with your games. Hope it doesn't keep crashing on you. I actually, knock on wood, haven't had a single crashing issue yet. I just haven't been able to do very well at Ewok Hunt, which is a me problem, not a dice problem. So hopefully I can pass some of that luck on to you. And there we go. That's it. So thanks for tuning in. This has been Cooking with Aunt Fuckhead, the chicken curry episode. Thanks, and see you guys later.